Here we're going to go over how to multiply binomials. The first method I want to show you is to just look at this and think of it as a distribution problem. What I'm going to do, because I'm multiplying this times this. So what I can think of it as is, okay, first let's do the x. Let's multiply the x by each of these in the other set of parentheses. X times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. Now let's do the second term. So let's multiply the positive 2. So I'm going to cross that off and say, now let's multiply the positive 2 times x. And the positive 2 times negative 3. Now that you've multiplied everything, you always combine any like terms. Remember, like terms always have the same variable, the same exponent. So these are the only two that are like terms. Not the x squared because it has a 2 as an exponent. So we're left with x squared minus 3x plus 2x is negative 1x, and then you have your minus 6. Now for the other examples I'm going to go through, we're going to use the FOIL mnemonic. And so what this is a way to remember the order of multiplying everything, just so you don't forget to multiply something. There should be a total of 4 different multiplication problems you do before you combine your like terms. So it's FOIL, stands for first, outside, inside, last. So I'm going to go through the different types of problems you might encounter. So if we do this one here, we do the first ones. So the first means the first term in each set of parentheses. So whatever is in this spot. So here I'm going to multiply x times x is x squared. The outside is the two numbers, the furthest on the outside, the furthest right one and the furthest left one. So in this case, I'm going to do x times negative 6 is negative 6x. Be sure to pay attention to whether the numbers are positive or negative when you're multiplying. Then you do the inside terms. These are the two terms in the very middle. So in this case, it's positive 4 times x is positive 4x. And then the last term, so the last numbers in each set of parentheses. So positive 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. And then again, like the other problem, after you multiply, you combine your like terms. So in this case, we're left with x squared minus 2x minus 24. Now let's do another one. This one, notice that you have the same numbers in each set of parentheses. They both have an x and a 4, but one is a plus and one is a minus. So let's see what happens. So FOIL, first, outside, inside, last. So the first terms would be x times x is x squared. The outside terms, x times negative 4 is negative 4x. The inside terms, 4 times x is positive 4x. And then the last terms in each set of parentheses. So in this case, it's 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. The very last step again is to combine your like terms. In this case, we have a negative 4x and a positive 4x. If you have a negative 4x and you add 4 x's, they cancel out. So that's what happens. When the numbers are the same, one is plus, one is minus, when you combine your like terms, the two middle terms are always going to cancel each other out. So in this case, we're left with x squared minus 16. Let's try another one. This one looks really similar to the last one. They both have an x and a 2y. They both have the same terms. One is positive, one is minus. So we know already that those two middle terms are going to cancel out. The thing that's different is that this one has an x and a y. So when we use the FOIL method, we multiply the first ones So x times x is x squared. And then we do the outside ones. So for this, when I'm multiplying x times negative 2y, that negative 2 and y are smushed together. That means we're multiplying them. So basically, we're multiplying all three of these numbers together. X times negative 2 times y. You always put the number first, and then when you do the variables, you put them in alphabetical order. So this would be an x and then the y. Then we do the inside ones, and this one's real similar, except we're doing positive 2 times y times x is positive 2xy. And then you do the last terms. And in this case, we're doing a positive 2y times a negative 2y. So again, it's like 2 times y times negative 2 times y. So I'm just going to put those little multiplication dots in there. So when you're multiplying these, you multiply the numbers first. So that's negative 4. And then you multiply the variables. Y times y is y squared. So that's how I got that negative 4y squared. The last step after you've done your 4 little multiplication problems is to combine your like terms. So if we have negative 2xy and we add 2xy, those cancel out. So we're left with x squared minus 4y squared. Now let's do a different type of problem that you might encounter. This one right here. So this one doesn't look like two binomials being multiplied together, but what it's saying is 2x plus 3y squared. So what we're doing is we're multiplying 2x plus 3y by itself times 2x plus 3y. So your first step is to write it out like that. Then you can use the FOIL method. First, outside, inside, last. So when we multiply the first ones, we have 2x times 2x, which is 4x squared. Then we multiply the outside ones. So 2x times 3y. Again, 2x times 3y. Just put your little multiplication dots in between all of those. You multiply the numbers first. 2 times 3 is 6. And then you multiply the variables. And when you write those, you write them in alphabetical order. So the x and then the y. And then you do the inside. So 3y times 2x. Again, same process. You get a 6 and then an xy. And then the last ones. 3y times 3y is 9y squared. For this one, when you combine the like terms, they don't cancel out. So even though the numbers are the same, if they're both the same symbol, they're both plus or they're both minus, those middle two terms are not going to cancel out. But you can combine them. Ask yourself, if you have 6xy's and you add another 6xy's, how many xy's do you have? You have 12xy's. And then you have the 9y squared that you can't combine with anything else. And that's it.